Welcome into the FNIA podcast, fellas. It is mock draft season, and we weren't just going to let this drive past us without us getting some picks on the board. You know, two legends of the game right there, Rodney Harrison and Tony Dungy in the middle. So these are the picks we will make today. It's the top 15. Rodney will go first overall with the Tennessee Titans. Coach will have the Cleveland Browns, and I will pick it up with the New York Giants. We'll then flip the order. Rodney jumps right back in with his Patriots, and so on and so forth. So on the clock, the Tennessee Titans.
On the clock. I like it.
Rodney Harrison.
Impressive.
With the first overall pick. Who shall Tennessee take, Rod?
Well, the Tennessee Titans, they're on the clock, but not for very long because this is an easy one. I'm going Cam Ward. He's the most talented quarterback in the draft. To me, this is a no-brainer. He's a good kid. He comes in. Right now, he's your day one starter. No longer do you have to deal with Will Levis and the ups and downs and inconsistent play of Will Levis. Put all your efforts into Cam Ward. He should be the number one pick for the Titans.
Well, I like that pick. And, you're picking need. And I do think it's kind of a consensus that Ward is the best quarterback in this draft. And that makes the most sense. I'm kind of delighted sitting there at Cleveland. I'm happy you took him. I need a quarterback, but I got some other things in mind too, Jack.
All right, Coach. Number 2 overall, the Cleveland Browns.
You got to have an opinion on that pick now.
Yeah, I think that's like the consensus now. It's almost like it feels to me, Coach, like the draft is starting at pick number 2. You know, I think the positional value of quarterback, like Will Levis, I grew up in Kentucky. I watched a ton of UK Wildcats football. I never really thought of Will Levis as a top quarterback. Watching him play in college, it really didn't materialize in that way in the NFL. You have to make your decision now and move beyond that. So I think he makes the most sense. And you make the pick and you go. And I think that's where Tennessee is right now. So I think the draft
Coach,
kind of too. Go ahead.
Hey,
Ryan.
Coach, one thing. Your pick, this number 2 pick by the Cleveland Browns will set the tone for the entire draft.
Yeah,
because we know what their need is, but will they go with their need or will they go with the best player available? I'm excited to hear what you got.
Well, I'm sitting there. I'm excited. If I'm Cleveland, I'm excited, Rodney, that you took Cam Ward because if I had the number 1 pick in Cleveland, then there would be a big debate. We need a quarterback. Ward's the best guy. I love Abdul Carter, and I feel like putting him opposite of Myles Garrett. I got a combo that's going to be in step and putting pressure on people for a long time. But my people know, and my fans say, you need a quarterback. So my dilemma now is Shedeur Sanders, the next guy on the list, versus Abdul Carter. Do I go need or versus that best player? I think Carter is the best player there, so that's who I'm going to take. We'll have a big debate about it. My offensive coaches will be upset, but this guy is going to be a trend center. I'm taking Abdul Carter.
Oh my goodness. This is what I mean about you guys. Cleveland doesn't have a quarterback. It has Kenny Pickett as its quarterback. This is a kid that can't stay healthy. This is a kid that's been up and down. He's got some talent, but you got Shedeur Sanders sitting there waiting to be drafted and you don't pick him. I just don't get it. This is a need. You can go get Abdul Carter. You can have the best defense in the NFL, Coach. But if you don't have a quarterback, somebody that gives this team some sense of hope, then you're going to struggle. And I don't care how good that defense is. But if I got opportunity, whether Shedeur is at 2, 7, 8, I'm grabbing what I need, and that's a young quarterback.
Yeah. See, I don't put him in that category of that can't miss guy. So I think Carter is a can't miss guy. I don't want to blow this at number 2. What I would actually be doing if I was the Cleveland Browns, I would take my whole 15 minutes up and I'd wait and I'd hope the Giants call me. I'd hope the Giants are in love with Shedeur and they call me and give me a couple of picks to flip down one spot. Then I would do that. But if I have to sit there and draft, I'm taking that surefire guy and I'm saying, you know what, we're going to be a great defense. People are going to have a lot of trouble handling us. And I'll get my quarterback down the line. Matter of fact, I've got my eye on a couple of these quarterbacks down the line like I had my eye on Bo Nix last year.
Oh, he does. He does. Sometimes he waits and then he gets his quarterback at a later moment. Okay, I like that. Coach, the thing that makes me think you're right is Myles Garrett. He was demanding a trade. He wanted to get out of Cleveland. and he's really putting his foot down in the contract negotiations. And then he mentioned after a meeting with the front office, some of the ownership, some of the coaches, that he heard who the pick was going to be. And that made him feel more comfortable about signing and being a part of Cleveland for the long term. It would make sense to me that they would tell him, we're thinking about taking Carter number 2. That's going to bring a lot of those double teams away from you, at least make it harder to double team you. We'll have 2 great guys coming off the edge. And if
you don't have a quarterback.
Right, I agree.
So you go get all these defensive ends and these pass rushers and stuff, and you guys just completely ignore a young quarterback that, to me, should be a top 5 pick. I think Shedeur is definitely worthy of a top 5 pick. I mean, a lot of people say what they want to say about his personality. I mean, this is a kid that didn't grow up poor. He grew up with his father. I mean, it's not like he's got this sad story, anything like that. I just think that he's a talented kid. I think a few people that didn't know him put some bad stuff out there, and now people are hesitant. But then you talk about leadership. You talk about a kid that understands the spotlight, a kid that can come in and help continue to build your locker room. I think this is look, I love Abdul Carter. No question about it, Coach. I think he's good enough to be the number 1 pick, but you don't need him. You need a quarterback. You need something that's going to give those guys hope in that locker room. And if you don't get that, they're going to continue to struggle. They're not making the playoffs because they go out and get Abdul Carter. I don't believe that.
Well, let me ask you this. If you're Jack now, you're sitting at the number 3 spot. Before I make my pick, are you calling me because you need a quarterback too with the Giants? Are you calling me to get that pick and take Shedeur?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was something that I was thinking about in the offseason. I'm like, if I'm the Giants, you got to put that call in because you need a quarterback as well. And what sense does it make for them to get Abdul Carter when they need a quarterback? So Shedeur should go either 2 or 3 to the Cleveland Browns or to the Giants, I believe, Jack.
Well, I think that this is actually how it's going to go. So I think Carter, to Coach's point, is going to go number 2. Now, whether he should or shouldn't, I actually am more in the camp of Rodney. I would have taken Shedeur. They didn't. So now I get the opportunity to. I will. I'm going to take him right there at 3. I don't want to live in this land of I like Russell Wilson. I don't want him to be my future. I like Jameis Winston. I don't want him to be my future. It's fun to have them on my roster, maybe even early in the season. I'll play them, see how it goes while I'm letting Shedeur get ready. But he proved it to me in some of those late games. You know, it wasn't the best teams he was on, even if you go prior to Colorado, but at Colorado, bad offensive line at times. They're down. He has to bring them with these late, fourth quarter into half drives. And his ability to put those together, to me, it's this. I really like his mental makeup. I like that going into a team that struggled too. And I would believe in Shedeur Sanders as my quarterback. He's mobile enough to get away and buy me some extra time. But I think he has the mental makeup of an NFL quarterback. And for that reason, I am in on Shedeur Sanders. Rodney, your thoughts at pick 3?
Absolutely. I love Shedeur Sanders. And once again, these guys, the Travis Hunters and Abdul Carters, these are supremely talented young men. But at the end of the day, they can't throw the ball. They can't hand it off. And you need a quarterback. And that's just the bottom line. And you think Dave Ball I think he would do an excellent job with Shedeur because Shedeur is still raw. I mean, he's a smart kid, but Dave Ball would really invest time into that kid and I think bring him around.
Mm-hmm.
And you do. I know this is a quarterback-driven league, and you got to have quarterbacks. And when you don't have a quarterback, that puts you into that high-need mode. We've got to go. But here's what my philosophy was, and I learned this from Bill Poland and all the guys. When you're drafting in the top 5, you cannot afford to miss. If you miss with a top 5 pick, it sets you back for a long time. So I'm picking a 2, 3, 4. I'm picking the can't miss guy. Now, hopefully the can't miss guy is a quarterback.
Yeah.
I love Shedeur. I don't think he's can't miss. I do think that Abdul Carter is can't miss. And so
I don't think Cam Waters can't miss. You think Cam Waters can't miss?
No, I agree. I agree with you. I agree. And how often have we seen this at quarterback? How many quarterbacks have we seen over the last 20 years that were picked number 1 because they were very, very good and they didn't quite get there? Okay. So that's why I'm leery of that quarterback at the top unless it's Elway Marino. It's that guy that is can't miss.
And Coach, I was thinking that because it's just a different set of circumstances with the Cleveland Browns. The fact that they're paying Deshaun Watson so much money, and you get an opportunity to get a young guy, somebody that's focused, somebody that's all about football, somebody that's engaged, and somebody that's cheap to come in and kind of wash away all the nightmares that he brought in there. So that's all I'm saying. I know Shedeur. I do believe that the second pick overall, that's high. I get it. But at the same time, you have a need. You have a team that's in straight desperation, a team where your best players, Miles, didn't even want to come back. So you got to do something.
Hey, they need the quarterback. There's no question about it. But need can sometimes force you into a mistake. And that's what I want to avoid. I don't want to take that guy just because I need him. And I don't want the fact that I need him to elevate my grade and this guy is really, really great because I need him. I've seen that happen with quarterbacks too much. It rarely happens with other positions. Guys like Carter, Travis Hunter, they're not up there because the team needs them. They're up there because they're talented guys.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Coach, you played the position, you know the position, you've been around Hall of Famers and great ones at the position. I mean, what is your hesitation? Because I can sense there is a slight hesitation with Shedeur Sanders. What is that biggest hesitation?
I don't know if he's big enough and he's going to be physical enough to take the punishment in the NFL. I love everything else about him. The things Rodney talked about, his demeanor and that, I love it because that's what you need to succeed in the NFL as a quarterback. I love the fact that his teammates really like him and rally around him. He's smart. He knows the game. He's got a lot of things you're looking for. I just don't know if he's that surefire, sure pop guy.
It's interesting. It really is. It's a fascinating pick. Like I think about him with Malik Neighbors and with Andrew Thomas, the left tackle, and some of the young core pieces of the Giants. And could they form a winning group? And I believe the answer is yes. Is he a perfect quarterback prospect? No, I would agree with you on that. But I think with this and with his competitive nature, I just think he would work in New York. I don't know what it is. Rodney, I see you shaking your head.
No, I agree with you 100%, Jack. I mean, Coach questions his size. I don't question his toughness, his mental toughness, his physical toughness. Like you talked about, Jack, the guy had no offensive line. He was limited with weapons on the offensive side of the ball. The guy did some incredible things. He was incredibly accurate. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can be excited about. There's a lot of things that you see on tape from Shedeur that you wish Daniel Jones had, who's been in the league, a guy that's making $40 million a year. And the way you coach this guy, you get the ball out of his hands quick, you run the football, you continue to build that offensive line, you get him another weapon, you add a tight end, and now you surround him with some really good players. But we'll see if Coach is right. I mean, he's got a lot more experience in this than I do.
No, I don't get me wrong. I love the guy. If I'm picking in those top three and I'm giving out that big money, if there's somebody there that I just think is surefire, can't miss, and is going to be great for years, that's where I'm at. Am I going to take
just one comment you made? Big money, right? It's probably anywhere from 30 to 35 million. So it's not big money. Most starting quarterbacks are making more in 1 year than he's making in his entire contract.
You're right. I shouldn't say money. It's opportunity. Okay. So I can draft Bruce Smith or, Derek Thomas or Barry Sanders, or I can draft that quarterback that I think is going to be great, and I hope he's there, but maybe it's Mitch Trubisky.
Well, you look at Cleveland, you look at the Giants. If they don't get a quarterback, they're gonna continue to lose. They're gonna continue to miss the playoffs. They're gonna continue to say, "Man, look at our roster. We got good players, but we just don't have a quarterback." So you go right back to it, Jack. Let's move on to number 4 with the Patriots.
Jack's got a pick for your guys now.
Let's move it on, Rod, because it really is interesting with the Giants, too, because those guys are fighting for their jobs, head coach and general manager. Yep. So let's move now to a guy that just got a new job, and Coach Vrabel. Where will he be looking with a top 5 pick, right? He's been busy in free agency already.
Well, me knowing Coach Vrabel, and he played linebacker, but he also played some tight end for us. So he understands the importance of guys up front. And I hope and pray that he doesn't get caught up in the DBs and the wide receivers. Number 4, you go with Will Campbell, offensive tackle, left tackle for LSU. You go with Will Campbell. You see this kid. I mean, he comes out, he's a culture setter, he's a stud, he's a tough guy, he's a guy that can express himself. And then you think about him and Drake May, 2 young guys growing together the next decade. I mean, that's got to be exciting. And you don't have to pay this guy $25, $30 million a year, just like the Chargers went out and got their left tackle off in the draft. I think this is a surefire. You draft Will Campbell, you continue to build that offensive line, and you be able to protect Drake May. Your thoughts, Coach?
We had this discussion with the Chargers last year, and putting that offensive tackle there that's going to be that pillar for 10 years, I get it. But if I got that young quarterback that I believe in, I want to put some weapons around him. And that's where I would be. And I would be leaning a little more towards Travis Hunter. And matter of fact, I'm picking for Jacksonville next, and I'm elated. And when you took Campbell, I'm doing that and saying, yes, because I'm going to take Travis Hunter and get that weapon for my young quarterback, Trevor Lawrence.
How do you weigh that? Like, to me, those are both weapons for a young quarterback, right? Having a left tackle that's going to give him some time, having a receiver that can win. How do you weigh, Rodney, which is more valuable?
From our championships, he won a championship because his offensive line. You know who Will Campbell is? He's Jeff Saturday. That's who Will Campbell is. He's just playing left tackle. He's not playing center. Will Campbell walks in that locker room with his personality and with his experience and knowledge of college and everything. He's going to come in and be a captain or a leader in that locker room right away. He's going to be a guy that helps change that culture, and that's what they need. They don't need another corner. They need a wide receiver, but they don't need another defensive back. They need somebody up front tough that can solidify that offense or defensive line, somebody that can protect Drake May. Drake May has all this potential, but if you continue, you put weapons around him, but if he doesn't have time, he was like the most sacked quarterback of last year. So you got to put some protection. And as much as I love Travis Hunter, adding a cornerback or adding a left tackle is going to get you to the playoffs, to me, quicker than adding a corner. That's just my thoughts with a young quarterback.
Interesting. And Coach, I assume that means you're taking Hunter with the Jacksonville Jags. Is that a fact?
Yeah, I'm taking Travis Hunter, and I'm putting him at wide receiver. I'm saying you're going to get the ball, you're going to make some plays, and forget it, this playing both ways. There's no way you can do that, Rodney. I hear people talking about that. There's no way Peyton Manning is going to have him as his number 1 receiver and say, well, half the time you're going to be in the defensive meetings, you aren't going to be with us. There's no way that can work in the NFL. Yeah, but I'm taking Travis and I'm putting him at wide receiver and saying, go score me 15 touchdowns this year.
And you know what, Coach, for that Jags pick, I wasn't going to even take Travis Hunter there. I was taking Mason Graham, the young defensive lineman. See, to me, that's where when we've had Jacksonville, they've always struggled up front in that defensive tackle area. They got Trayvon Walker. They got Josh Allen. You add Mason Graham. Now, all of a sudden, remember when they struggled against Kansas City and they just could not beat Kansas City? It's because those guys up front. So you add a guy like Mason Graham, and now you have Josh Allen, you have Trayvon Walker. Now you have a formidable front that can stop the run, that can put pressure, guys that up front that can get after the quarterback and create some turnovers. That's what you need. I'm a big Travis Hunter fan, but not for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They need some beef in the interior of that defense.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I've got my list, and had you taken Travis Hunter with New England's pick, I was taking Mason Graham. He's the next guy on my list. I got both those guys together. But I'm thinking in this day and age with the way the game is played, you got to have people that can pressure that quarterback and heat up the defensive line. But weapons are so important. You get that guy who can make a difference. Malik Neighbors comes in and he does some things for the Giants offense. And Jamar Chase comes in and he does some things for that Cincinnati offense. and I think Travis Hunter will do the same thing. I've changed because when I was coaching, I was a defensive guy, and I'm looking for that solid linchpin in the defensive line. But now the way the rules are, give me those weapons that can score points.
But also think about this. I talked about Trayvon. I talked about Josh Allen on the outside. It's rare that you have guys on the outside. Then you have that interior guy like the Rams. Like to me, he reminds me of Braden Fisk, the Rams defensive tackle, because he can win inside. If you got guys that can win on the outside, guys that can win on the inside, it just makes it that much, more conducive to what you're trying to do.
That's what Philadelphia put together, and they're tough to deal with now because they've got guys all along that defensive line that you got to deal with.
So we're putting together the puzzle here, fellas. These are what the top 5 picks look like thus far. Rodney, he led us off with Cam Ward. Abdul Carter goes second. Shedeur Sanders to the Giants. Will Campbell then went 4th. And because of those picks, Coach then takes Travis Hunter at 5th overall there to the Jags. So that puts me back up with the Raiders. And to me, the Raiders are a team that Shedeur Sanders could potentially fall to. If he does, I would like him there as well. In this instance, he does not. So I'm going to take a receiver. This group, to me, they don't really have anybody that scares you on the outside. Like, you look at the roster and you go, man, like Geno Smith, if you're going to win with him, you better have some guys that can help. And this to me would be one of those picks. It's T-Mac Tetero McMillan, 6'4", 220 pounds. He has some speed. He's a jump ball player, can catch and run. I want him to be a little bit more aggressive at times. That's the one thing when I watched him play is just a little more Steve Smith. If he could have just 10% more of that in him, I would appreciate it. But they need something. He was highly productive, couple years, over 1,300 yards, only 21 years old. So some ability to grow up there in Vegas. They need receivers. I don't know if it's the greatest receiver class I've ever seen, but to me, that would be the one I would take. Coach, your thoughts?
I saw that talent level. I saw that ability. The one thing that scared me, and I probably shouldn't read too much into it, he was interviewed and he said, I'd rather watch film myself because I don't like to watch with the rest of the receivers. And I'm thinking, you have no chance in Indianapolis with Peyton Manning if that's your approach. So that one scared me, Rodney, but I do love the talent.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very talented young man, but I said the same thing, Coach. And when you mentioned his name, I was sitting here thinking, well, I don't like to watch tape. I want no part of that kid. If I'm the Raiders, I think it's easy. I think you have to solidify the run game. Ashton Jeanty is the great pick here. I mean, you're building the foundation of a good young offense. You got Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers. You add in Ashton Jeanty. You continue to work on that offensive line. I like this pick for the Raiders because the Raiders, when Josh Jacobs was there and he was running well, this team, you had to respect that offense. No one respects that offense. No one fears that offense. So now you have Brock Bowers. You're getting a bunch of young, talented guys for cheap. You know what I mean? So if you're the Raiders, man, I think this is an easy pick. I mean, this kid is the best running back in the draft. Why are you laughing at me, Coach? You don't think this is an easy pick?
He is, and he's right there on my list. He's the next pick, but I'm with Jack's going for that talent. Jack sees this guy who's big and he can run and he makes plays. And
typical Raiders, right, Coach? Typical Raiders.
Who cares about watching tape?
It is. And I'm just thinking that if they're going to be able to win with Geno, they ain't doing it with Jacoby Myers. I mean, Myers is going to help them, but they ain't going to win with throwing the ball to Bowers and Jacoby Myers. Like that's just not enough with Geno Smith playing quarterback. Now,
and a running back
helps.
And the best running back in the draft.
Believe me, he was definitely on my list. He was definitely on my list.
And you're going to pick up. Wait, listen, you're going to pick up a couple receivers. During training camp, when guys get hurt, guys might pull a hamstring, guys get released, you're going to pick up some guys. This is not just Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers. You're going to pick up some veteran players to put in camp. But what I'm saying is you don't have a run game. Your star running back is in Green Bay. So you don't have a run game. No one respects your run game. And how do you continue to pass the ball? Well, get a good young running back. I mean, this is a kid that's legit. He's going to come in. He's going to have 1,100, 1,200 yards his first year. I promise you that.
Jack's drafting like Al. He's going back to his Al Davis roots. I like the pick. I like
Man,
it. You're drafting a Raider.
Speed, baby. Give me some speed.
I love it.
You can go up and get it. All right, who's up next? I think it's Rod, right?
Rodney.
Are we back to Rodney? And he has the Jets.
Yes, the Jets. You have Justin Fields. Obviously, you got some talent at running back and the wide receiver. But for me, it's Tyler Warren, the tight end. This is a need. This is another weapon for Justin Fields. I mean, this is a big, strong guy that can play all over the field. He can block. He can play in the slot. He's big. He's physical. He's an easy target, coach. This is a home run for the Jets, the tight end, Tyler Warren.
Yeah, I like that pick. I love Warren. I watched him play. He just reminds me of these tight ends that have come out, the Brock Bowerses and the Dallas Goederts, who come out and they make an impact. And I just think this is a great pick. A lot of people don't have him up that high, but I like this young man and his talent and the position.
All right, so it's hard to argue with that. Everybody knows what he can do at the tight end position. Coach, we move it down, and you now have the 8th pick, and that would be the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, and the way the board has fallen now, I've really got a dilemma because I love Mason Graham. Rodney talked about him earlier on, and this is a tremendous defensive player, a guy who can solidify the middle of that line of scrimmage, and that's who I should pick. But I didn't know Ashton Genty was going to still be there. And now he's there. The Raiders passed on him, and he's there. And I've got this young quarterback and Bryce Young, and I need some weaponry. And now I can get this great running back who can be Edgerrin James for us and take some pressure off the quarterback. So I'm going to change my mind. I had my card drawn up with Mason Graham. Genty didn't get picked. I'm picking Ashton Genty right here.
And that's for Carolina, correct?
Carolina, yep.
Yeah, they just paid their starting running back. So you got two.
That's all right.
Backs.
That's all right.
No, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just.
Yeah.
Jack, you at 9 with the Saints?
Yeah, so that puts it right back to the New Orleans Saints at pick number 9. And this is one I went back and forth on. I think that they need help at cornerback. The more I looked at their roster, Marshawn Lattimore being out of there, he's of course with Washington now. To me, corner is a premium position. That's one of those positions where you just have to have somebody, and it's nice to have them on a rookie deal as well. And so I'm going to go with Jahdae Barron out of Texas.
Ooh, okay.
To me, just watching him coach, and Rod, I see you nodding your head. It was speed, attitude, leadership, and then the ball skills with the 5 interceptions this past year. And honestly, the way he ran with the ball after he caught it, I really like him. He's a sub 4.4 guy, and he makes a lot of sense in that New Orleans defense to me. Rod, your thoughts?
100%. I agree with you. I thought the need was definitely cornerback. But for me, it was Will Johnson. So either one of those guys, because I have them two ranked as the top 2 cornerbacks in this draft. But cornerback is a home run position. You have, I like Will Johnson right here, or the kid that you mentioned. Yep.
Would you think about a quarterback here at all, Zach?
No.
It just would depend to me, Coach, on how it's shook down. If nobody had taken Shador yet, I would think about it. If everybody gets sort of spooked by the quarterbacks in the top 8 picks or so, and they start slipping outside of Cam Ward, I would think about it. I would definitely think about it. Would you, Coach?
I would, and because I know eventually we're going to need that quarterback, and this could be the time to get him. Maybe I move down a little bit, see if anybody wants that pick, move down a little bit. And I've got some dark horse quarterbacks for later on in the first round. But I do like your pick at corner. I was like Rodney, though. I kind of had Will Johnson a little higher just because of the size. But I like the cornerback pick.
Okay, there we go. So I believe that kicks us back over to Rodney, correct? Rod, who you going with next? We are now at pick number 10.
With the Chicago Bears. And the Chicago Bears did a great job, guys, of coming right in, Ben Johnson, and really solidifying and trying to change that offensive line. But, Coach, you always talk about weapons, and I do believe they need a weapon. And to me, the guy that really stands out is Matthew Golden. I think he's a stud. I mean, he's great hands, tremendous speed. great competitiveness, and just a kid that's ready to play day one. He has all the right tools, the right attitude. I think this is a home run for the Bears.
Yeah. I like that pick because I do think you got to get your young quarterback some weapons. I'm just sitting there with Mason Graham, who I love, and he's still there, but I got this young quarterback, and do I want to go out and get Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne for him? Yeah, that's what I want to do. So let's go with Matthew Golden. I love it.
Would you go receiver over offensive line there, Coach?
I would, because of what they've done in the offseason. They've hit their offensive line already. And so to me, you get this young receiver who can grow with my second-year quarterback, and they can kind of grow together like Reggie and Peyton did. I think that's the way to go.
Went Odunze last year, so they continue to add at the wide receiver.
Yeah, so now you got Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne together with a young quarterback, and the three of us are going to grow.
There you go. All right, so that now gets us down to pick number 11, and that is the San Francisco 49ers. So, Coach, who would that pick be for you?
Yeah, I needed weaponry. I need some big play guys. Debo's not going to be there, but I'm sitting there with Mason Graham. Just still, he's standing out like a sore thumb on my board, and so I'm John Lynch. I got to take the best player available. I'm taking Mason Graham here.
Wow.
Okay. Wow.
Wow. So my question to you, at left tackle, Trent Williams, you paying him a lot of money.
Yep.
And I think he's 36 or 37. I think he's getting a little older now. You wouldn't consider maybe taking a left tackle like Armand Minbu or something from Missouri?
He's the guy that I had targeted there. That's who I wanted. And that is the logical pick. And I would have gone into it as San Francisco thinking that's our guy. But now all of a sudden, here's this guy who, gosh, man, we've got him rated so high, and he's sitting there. And do I pass up what I think is a great player for a need position? And I like Membo a lot. And he could fit in right there, learn from Trent, and then step in. But, man, I don't want to pass up on that weapon.
And Coach, just to echo what you're saying, that defense, if Mason Graham is still there, to me, he goes under that category that you were talking about, the can't miss category.
Yeah.
I don't think because he can play inside, he can play outside. He's big enough to play with power, speed. He uses his hands well, so he can do all those different things. But I think that's a home run, either one of them, whether it's defense tackle or the left tackle.
This kind of reminds me of my first draft with the Steelers, and I'm a young guy, and Coach Noll had given me all these defensive backs to work out, and he said, Rod Woodson's at Purdue. Don't work him out. We've got the 10th pick. He's not going to get to us. You don't even go see him. Well, all of a sudden, the draft falls, and we're there, and the 9th pick, it's Rod Woodson or Jerome Brown. Philadelphia takes Jerome Brown, and Rod Woodson fell to us. We had to take him because he was just that talented, and this would be the same case. If Mason Graham is there, yeah, boy, I had my eye on that offensive tackle, but I can't pass that can't miss guy.
Good story. That's a good story. Good comparison.
I like it. It's always an eye-opening experience doing even this draft where we go pick by pick of guys that you wanted or you thought about, and it never goes the way you thought it would before you. It just never does. You know, you can make a million mock drafts and they're never right. You know, it's like building a bracket in March Madness. It never goes the way you think, and all of a sudden you're playing a 12 seed. So let's see what we got with the picks so far. We've now through 11 picks. Ward, Carter, Sanders, Campbell, Hunter. You see all the picks. McMillan, we got a tight end there. First tight end off the board with Tyler Warren. Rodney picked him to the Jets. Then a running back goes to Carolina. On down, we have a corner who went to New Orleans. Golden, a receiver. So a couple of receivers off the board. And then Mason Graham. So that means the Cowboys be back on the clock. And
now you got to think like Jerry Jones, too. You got to get a star. You got to get some celebrity here.
I was. I mean, I stayed up half the night thinking about it. I was on Matthew Golden. I was thinking, Texas.
Oh, it would have been perfect.
You know how many games he probably watched of Matthew Golden? He probably was in person for a handful of them. I'm trying to get that wide receiver, too, for Dak Prescott, somebody who's on the other side of the field. Get him his T. Higgins, if you will. That's what I was trying to do. But you went ahead and you took him from me, Rod. So at this point, I'm going to go linebacker. I'm going to take Jahad Campbell. Is Jahad Campbell still on the board? I believe he is, right? Jahad Campbell's still on the board.
Yes.
I'm going to take him there. They've gotten to a position at linebacker where they need help. They need playmakers. I love Overshown. I put him next to Overshown, and I start to build that defense back to life for Dallas. Rod, your thoughts?
I hate it, Jack.
Okay. Why?
I'm looking at Amarion Hampton, big running back, UNC. He can come in. This is something that, yes, this is what the Dallas Cowboys need. They need a run game. They need a consistent run game. This kid is big. He's fast. He can break tackles. He can catch out of the backfield. They need a threat. Dak Prescott needs a threat at the running back position. Take some pressure off him. Jahad Campbell's a good football player, but I tell you, Amarion Hampton comes right in right now, and he helps this offense. He takes pressure off of CD and Dak, and it's just something you can build around. But I don't really like the linebacker pick until later rounds.
The linebacker pick to me is sound, a very, very good player. It's not a Jerry Jones pick. Jerry Jones isn't going to pick logically. He's going to go for the Ezekiel Elliott type running back that can come in and do it. I think that would be more of a Dallas pick. Yeah.
What do you think about Amarion, though, Coach?
I like him. Yeah, I like him a lot. Yeah, and I think he would help him. Yeah.
What about offensive line? Like I get the running back idea, but
they need that help.
Dallas O-line that we're used to, and that really was my thought. Like Zach Martin no longer being there, you start looking at their offensive line on paper. It's okay. There's nothing dominant or overwhelming about it. Running back may help, but it's still not going to be that offensive line we're used to from Dallas.
And the guy who's kind of sitting there right now that might be a thought there is Kelvin Banks, 6'5", 315 guy from Texas. That would be a thought there too, because they've lost some people in the offensive line. They're not as dominant as they've been.
Coach, do you like him more so than you like Tyler Booker from Alabama?
I do a little bit, just the size and I do like Banks a little bit better. I got him up.
Yeah, the position, right?
Yeah, and the position. Yes.
So that would mean that the Miami Dolphins would be on the clock, and that would kick it back to Rodney.
So I'm going with James Pierce, pass rusher, defensive edge guy from the University of Tennessee. I got a chance to see this kid now. Coach, this is a coin toss because I hear, some things going on in his background, but he's a heck of a player. Got a chance to see him. He's kind of tall, a little slender guy, but once you get in the weight room and take your supplements, he needs to put on about 25 pounds. But he is fast, he's athletic, and he can get to the quarterback. So I'm going with James Pierce. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the top 15. He's that tremendous of a pass rusher.
Okay. Yeah, I had some guys there, and I don't know Miami's situation, what they need, what they're looking for. Will Johnson's still on the board, a good, solid cornerback, a couple of offensive linemen, but that's a good pick, and I'm with that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I have no beef with that pick. That means, though, that Coach would be up, and that would be with the Indianapolis Colts, a franchise extremely well, Coach. What do they need most?
Well, what they need is a tight end, and they were hoping Tyler Warren would slide down to them, and they would get that Brock Bowers pick, and that would be the guy that they had their eye on. He went, and that broke their hearts a little bit. So now what do? Do we take, the next best player available? Do we pick for need? There's a couple of interesting guys there. Kelvin Banks, we talked about, an offensive tackle that could help protect a little bit. But there's an interesting guy, Jalen Walker, defensive end from Georgia, who's Robert Mathis body type. Okay, a fast guy, a little bit raw, but man, got that speed on that AstroTurf. He might help that pass rush. And I think they would have visions of Robert Mathis going through their minds. So I'm picking Jalen Walker here. Plus, all these University of Georgia guys have come in and done amazing things in the league. So he's got a little track record going for him.
What about the kid, the tight end from Michigan? I forget his name.
That's a thought. Yep, that's a thought because he's
basically the second best tight end in the draft. So if I'm Indy and my two needs are guard and tight end. So I'm looking at Tyler Booker there. I'm looking at that tight end. And
Colston.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I'm
and
Indy,
he will be a consideration for Indy right there. If it falls like this, they would definitely be looking at him.
Yeah, that's the guy I'm taking. That's who I really like at that position.
Coach, how do you feel about the Colts roster as a whole? I mean, we had them on Sunday Night Football this year, and at moments they look really good. I'm thinking about their D line, and they were able to move people. They have some big bodies. When they come on the field, they just look big, especially on that defensive front. Like when you look at their roster and the way it's constructed, obviously quarterback is a big question mark in terms of, what it looks like going forward. Is Richardson going to be the long-term solution? How big of a factor is this year in that equation of the evaluation of him? How do you feel about the makeup of where they are right now as a team?
Yeah, they've got a great running back. They've got some offensive weaponry. They've got some receivers who can make things happen. They need that threat in the middle of the field, either tight end or big-time slot receiver, and they need a difference maker on the defensive side of the ball. And that's why I kind of went for Walker. Maybe he can step in and be that dominant pass rusher, that guy who can make things happen like FNIA and Mathis. But they're close. The quarterback key is so key. That quarterback's got to play consistent football for him. But I think they're close. One difference maker on defense would help them.
Hey, Coach, I agree with you. I think this is a very talented roster, but I think it's been their quarterback play that's kind of been inconsistent. It's really held them back. And Jalen Walker's a heck of a player. He'll come in right away and make an impact on that team if they decide to go that way. But if I'm Indy, I'm looking at that tight end, man. That tight end is such a threat. The kid is big. He's long. He can catch across the middle. I mean, that's just a home run for me.
Yeah. They got Pierce, Downs, Ogletree's the tight end right now, Pittman Jr. on the other side. You mentioned Taylor, of course, the running back. Offensive line looks solid up front. You could definitely upgrade that tight end spot. Coach, I'm told in my ear here, who would be the last linebacker to be taken in the first round for the Colts? It's our producer, Ryan Burke, the trivia master.
The last linebacker in the first round. Maybe Rob Morris.
That's it. That's it. You don't forget a thing. 25 years ago, Coach.
Coach got a memory like a drunken sailor. I'm telling you.
Rob he was a middle linebacker from BYU that made plays all over the field. He played in the middle for us, but then we moved him outside in our Super Bowl year and did a great job for us. And he was, I didn't know he was the last one, but he was a good player for us.
Wow. There you go. So I believe that gets us down to the Atlanta Falcons, correct? So that would be pick 14 you just had.
You got pick 15.
It does. And so, all right, the Falcons, this is a team that Rodney knows extremely well. So he's already sitting up in his seat there. I can see.
Before you pick, Jack, I'm calling on the phone. I'm a team that needs a quarterback. I want that 15th pick. I'm going to give you next year's number 2 if you'll move down a little bit, because I want to move up and I want to take Dylan Gabriel from Oregon.
Wow. Okay. I'm out. I'm taking the deal.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking
this year's Bo Nix. This young man has played 6 years in college. He's thrown 1,300 passes in college. He can move. He can run. He's mobile. He's played a lot of football. I think he's going to be this year's Bo Nix.
Wow. Hey, Coach, but are you saying that for the Falcons?
No. I'm a team that needs a quarterback. The Falcons are picking 15th, and I'm saying I want your pick because I want to draft this quarterback, and he won't make it to me, Don.
So basically, you're the Pittsburgh Steelers because the Denver Broncos don't need a quarterback. The Tampa Bay, Seattle don't. Like these teams don't need it. So if you're the Steelers, you're moving up. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
And I just wanted to throw Dylan's name out there in this mock draft. He's not going to get picked in the top 15, but I had a feeling on Bo Nix last year, and I think this kid is the same way. He's played a lot of football. He's been highly productive. He's smart. His teammates love him. He's going to be a good player for someone. Yeah,
you did call that out last year. For me, if I'm the Falcons, It's two guys that I'm really trying to figure out who I want. Shamar Stewart, the big defensive tackle, who's a freak athlete, that, they say don't make a lot of plays, but he has a lot of potential. Or do you go get a guy like Mikael Williams from UGA, big linebacker? So one of those guys, I'm going to go with Williams, Mikael Williams. I'm going to go with him. And maybe Shamar Stewart, maybe he's a second-round pick or even a later first-round pick. But I'm going to go with them if I'm the Falcons. The Falcons need a playmaker at the linebacker position. They were absolutely average last year at linebacker. Yes, they need some help in the defensive front. But I thought the secondary played well. But if I'm the Falcons, I'm going with Mikael Williams from UGA.
Yeah, if I had not gotten the call from Coach Dungy and perhaps the Pittsburgh Steelers to trade back, now I would have for sure taken the deal. But had I not gotten the call, I look at what they did getting after the passer, Rodney, to your point, second fewest sacks in the league. That's what they had. Generated the third lowest amount of pressure, right? So if you can't, two things I always look at: can you protect the passer and can you affect the passer? And they got to be able to affect the passer on defense. And so do you go Shamar Stewart? Or the other guy I was looking at was Mike Green from Marshall. And it's interesting because he doesn't have the physical tools, but he has that production that you were talking about. So do you go the big 6'6" frame of Stewart with a little bit less production, or do you go with the guy like Green who's proven that he just makes plays all over the field? And I weighed that back and forth. Who would you go with between those two, Rod?
No, I'm saying I want both. I want a guy that looks the part and a guy that's productive. I don't want a guy because you're guessing. I mean, you think about college football. 90% of the guys that these guys play with, they're going to be professionals in something other than football. So, the competition level on a professional level is just so high. So if I'm the Falcons, I'm going with Mikael Williams. To me, he's a surefire. He flies around the field. He's going to make plays, and he's going to help continue to build that defense that Raheem Morris is looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Green is
I like that. Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, Green is a classic guy. He is Robert Mathis to me. Small school, smaller body, but highly productive. And those guys tend to come in and play hard, and they've got something to prove, have a chip on their shoulder, and he's going to be a good player for someone.
Hey, Jack, I was wondering, can we take a look at the top 15 again?
Because I wanted to go back now. Who did you pick, Jack? Which one are you settling on at 15?
I ended up taking Stewart just because that's who I have. Shamar Stewart on my board. He's a monster of a physical guy anyway, so I'm willing to live with that. They're getting the top 15 ready, so we'll look at those picks when they come in.
Because I got my list here of how I ranked them, and there's a couple of guys that didn't get picked now. And so we have to look back and see and who did we let slide, and did we make any mistakes here? So I'd love to see this.
All right, here we go. So
let's go through it.
Overall, fellas, the quarterbacks, even weak quarterback classes, people start thinking, they're probably going to pass on quarterbacks. Then the draft happens, and what always happens? Quarterback, they fly off the board just because of that positional value. Like, Coach, do you think that'll be the case this year, or do you think this year is different?
No, I think it will be. That's why I made that call to you to get up to number 15 to take my guy, because I don't want that. Yeah. I know there's going to be a run somewhere, and he's going to get picked before he gets to me.
Yeah. All right, Rod, your thoughts on this top 15?
I don't like the negativity when it comes to Shedeur. I just think that Shedeur is, this kid, at one point I had him in front of Cam. Cam's got some physical tools and things that he can do that impresses you, but Shedeur is smart. And I definitely believe that he'll be gone within the top 3 picks, Coach.
Yeah. I look at that group that we picked, and the two guys that I see standing out are Armand Membo, offensive tackle. He didn't get picked. He's a solid guy. And then Will Johnson, our cornerback from Michigan, who's big and maybe a Quinyon Mitchell type guy, and he didn't get picked. I think those two have a chance to go in the real top 15. But I like the way we did it. We drafted for need, and we made some things happen.
Hey, don't be surprised if the Bengals snatch at 17, they get Will Johnson. I'm just saying, I know that's next week for our podcast.
Oh, yeah. I think the Bengals will be starving for anybody on both sides of the line of scrimmage. They need offensive linemen, particular interior offensive linemen. They're going to need a left tackle soon, I think. Orlando Brown, I like him over there. I don't think it's going to be the guy of the future, if you know what I mean. I think it's, he's given them good minutes for sure. Banged up last year, but they need interior linemen. They need pass rushers. Sam Hubbard retired too. They need run stoppers. Free agency, they pay nothing but receivers. They
need 10 rounds.
They do. They need some beef, man. They need some beef that can play, or else those skill guys to me aren't going to matter. Like, I think about when Cincy played Philly, and yeah, they had great skill players, but Philly just beat them up. They ran the ball however they wanted to. They threw it, and they were wide open because the Bengals were selling out to stop the run. So I just think about them against that upper echelon of teams, and they can't compete like that, right?
Hey, Jack, if Cincinnati is smart, the first pick they will have is a tackle, okay? Because you got plenty tackles, very talented tackles. Coach, you just talked about that. It's a no-brainer. You go tackle, you go offensive line, then you switch to the defense of side of the ball, in particular in the secondary.
Yep, get some protection for Burrow, no question.
Yeah, Coach, how about Jackson Dart? That's another quarterback that
he's another one. I think he's going to go. It's another one of those guys who's played a lot of football, 850 passes he's thrown in his career. Very productive guy. I think Dart and Gabriel have a chance to be first-round picks they're kind of off the radar a little bit, but it would not surprise me at all.
With this class as a whole, is there more value sort of waiting and getting one of those guys, Gabriel or Dart, later, or trading backwards as opposed to reaching for a Sanders or that in the top 10, like as you see it, Coach?
The way that's exactly why with the second pick, I took Abdul Carter, because that would be my thought. I'm going to get that surefire guy that can't miss. Now I might give up a third-round pick to move up and get one of these quarterbacks at the tail end of the first round. May not be Shedeur, but he might be Bo Nix.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rod. Sorry.
No, I understand where he's coming from.
Yeah, that could be Pittsburgh. Like, I'm kind of thinking Pittsburgh could be that, even if they take Aaron Rodgers. And I know he's out there throwing with DK Metcalf, which, what the heck is that? Like, you're gonna go work out with DK Metcalf, but you're not gonna sign the contract? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
See it if you like him. What's going on, Coach?
Well, that's why I said last week, guys, that I wanted no part of Aaron Rodgers, because at the end of the day, he's making it about him. And, you're trying to build a team, you're trying to gather the right pieces and try to formulate the team to come together. And when you don't have the most important piece, which is your quarterback, he should be the leader. He should be the guy that signed, sealed, and delivered. Hey, guys, I want to be here. Let's meet. Hey, it's the off season. Come to my place in Colorado, whatever it is. But those are the things you're supposed to do as the leader. And if I'm Mike Tomlin, I want no part of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. To me, that's one of the biggest differences between, like, Brady. Like, you remember Brady when he went on to Tampa, and that whole offseason, he's working out with those receivers nonstop. And it's the only way that in 1 year you can flip it and have that chemistry. And of course they did. Like, Rodgers doesn't seem to like the offseason. He's never really seemed to like it, especially these last 3 or 4 years. He likes to do trips and he likes to do his stuff.
Jack,
he doesn't really like the offseason.
We as football players, nobody likes to come in and shorten their summer, go away from their families, and go work out in Massachusetts, Boston. Okay, nobody wants to do that. But at the same time, that's your job, and we need everybody there in order to build that chemistry, in order to, gain respect for it. Like, man, I didn't know that kid worked so hard. Man, look at that kid work and get motivated. That's what you're trying to do. You can't come in the fall and think you're going to walk right into the season, you're going to have success. You got to be there every step of the way. You got to learn how to trust each other, how to form that chemistry, and just how to communicate.
Yeah, Tom was here in Tampa right after he signed, and he changed the culture immediately, and it was totally different. And he was here every single day.
That's it. I still think it's going to be Rodgers in Pittsburgh, though. I still think that's going to find a way to happen. We are picking the rest of the first round next week. As Coach mentioned, there's a lot of good players left, fellas. A lot of good players left. The FNIA podcast It will continue next Wednesday. Such a pleasure. See you guys.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.